As dads, some days we feel like we have all the answers, and some days we feel like we don't have a clue. If that describes you, you're at the right place. This is the All Pro Dad Podcast. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast, where each week we take a look at just one question. We talk about what the experts say, what we've gotten wrong mostly, occasionally what we've gotten right, but we leave you with one simple but powerful pro move. I'm your host, Ted Lowe, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. BJ Foster.
Hey, Ted.
BJ, how are you, man?
I'm good. I kind of like this.
I like the setup.
It's just the two of us. We finally get Bobby out of here.
Boy, that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I was like, this is kind of like when we hang out. Every time we do the podcast, we go hang somewhere. So I feel like it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But we probably have to filter a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Just a smidge.
If it's you, it's a little bit. If it's me, it's a lot.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
That leads us, not with a very smooth transition, but a transition into our question of the week, which is, what are 5 essential gauges to look for when raising kids? Like, what are those things that we need to check consistently? In our cars, we've got, the different gauges, you got to, of course, the fuel, the battery, the RPMs, that little tire gauge, which I can't figure out why that's the symbol. I'm still trying to work on that. But, we've got to check those things because they all have to be going at the same time. And I thought it'd be helpful for us to talk about what are those gauges that we have to consistently keep our eyes on. And this was birthed out of an article I've written for All Pro Dad that was birthed out of conversations with our now 24-year-old. And he's playing like this game with us, like parental gotcha. So now that he's 24, he can tell us things. He would say, hey, you guys remember when you thought I was at X's house? I was really at Y's house. Or he would say things like that. One of the biggest things that was revealed to us is when he would spend a lot of time with one of his friends, and the friend was like 20 minutes away. We're in Metro Atlanta, so everything's 20 minutes away. So he would go to this friend's a lot, spend a lot of time. And we thought that this kid's parents were on the same page as us. We went to the same church. We thought, man, this is a great environment. I'm glad he's going there. Well, this is where a lot of things were happening, or there's some things that he was doing that we definitely did not approve of. And he thinks it's funny now to go, hey,
Right.
What you going to do? Ground me?
Right.
I teach 7th grade.
Yeah,
You can't ground me. And so it's those things going back. I went, why did I miss that? Was that a gauge that I kept my eye?
Well, how
Also,
are you emotionally handling all of this? You're not laughing, or are you laughing?
Yeah, it was emotionally. You feel it feels like gotcha.
Yeah,
it feels like a little bit gotcha. And even though I know logically it's these years later, it's still regrettable.
Yeah,
it's still regrettable, and it makes me go, man, I hated I missed that.
Right.
With him, and it makes me want to stay more on my game with the younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we were off our game, but we obviously were off our game with that particular gauge.
Right.
So I want us to talk about 5 gauges. So we're going to move to some plays for our playbook when it comes to keeping our eyes on gauges with our kids. The number one, I think, one of the most important is the friend gauge. Mm-hmm. BJ, you worked for years with teenagers. Mm-hmm. You have 2 teenagers of your own. Why is keeping our eye on our kids' friends so important?
Because the people you surround yourself with, you're going to become like them. Like, I'll never forget. I mean, I was doing one of those personality tests where they actually, as a test where they gauge what you're good at. So there was no faking it
Right.
And they said, you're illogical. Like, your brain is not logically wired. And they're like, you're just a random thinker. But they said, but you compensate really well. And the reason I compensate really well is I always surrounded myself with really logical people, which drove me crazy because I could never win a debate. I was always, but I knew that surrounding myself with people like that, and maybe there was something I was just sort of drawn to the structure or whatever. But it helped me to compensate for a weakness. And it kind of helped maybe train my brain. I'm still swimming against the stream with that, but it trained my brain to kind of be more logically driven. And so in the same way, if your kids are surrounded by, bad influences, they're going to move that way. If they're surrounded by good influences, it's that way. But on top of that, it's just relationships are the key to life. They're the key to their success. And so if there's no one better to walk them through relationships like parents.
Right.
So keeping up to date, like, how you doing with so-and-so? What are you dealing with there? Well, can I help? Like, when you start asking and it's like, well, I'm having a little bit of trouble with so-and-so. What? Oh, they're just being a jerk. Okay, well, tell me what, do you need help with that? Well, they kind of did this and then you can kind of go, okay, you can kind of help them think from the other person's perspective and really kind of train them along kind of relationally. So it's kind of all of those things all wrapped up into one, I think.
Yeah, it's so key. And we talk a lot about asking our kids a lot of questions, and we would say hi, hello at dinner, and that would usually involve friends, or when, friends were over, don't always go out of the room. Don't ask questions yourself. You and I both were in youth ministry for a long time. We call them, ask those youth ministry questions, ask them, and you start to get a gauge on the kid. Your kids may not love it. That's okay. There's a lot of things you do they don't love.
Yeah.
They may not think you're cool. That's okay. They don't need you to be cool. They need you to be involved in that. The other thing that I would suggest try to do is make your house the hangout as much as possible. Get a bunch of, non-nutritious snacks. Food always draws kids in. I mean, you don't have to have a big fancy house to make it a house where kids want to be. So you can see what's going on. I'm going to be around your friends. I'm going to see your friends. Again, we talked about this in another episode to, talk with teachers, talk with coaches, start watching what's going on there. There's an iMom article that we want to point you to. We'll put in the show notes that's so powerful about navigating bad friendship and offering advice on what you do when you realize that your kid is hanging out with kids that they shouldn't. So check out that article from iMom. You can see that in our show notes. Number 2, another gauge is the school gauge. That we can keep, not tabs, but tabs, and keep our eye on the prize for what we want with our kids. We need to always through the lens of school.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about my family on this one is that my kids are homeschooled. And I think a lot of people kind of think, oh, so your kids, it's just the, the mom and the 2 kids. Well, no, there's a whole kind of community around it. So we are kind of up to speed on, my kids, my wife is their everyday teacher, although I teach them math, which, good grief, it's the blind leading the blind. But every week they go in for like a tutoring session where they're with all the other kids and they have a tutor. And the tutor gives these quarterly, reports on your kid and how they're doing and how they're engaging in class and class discussions and what they're good at, what they need to work on. And all of that stuff is just, the minute my wife brings it home, I'm like, let me read it. I want to see how they're doing. So it's another angle when you have a teacher or tutor or another adult that sort of sees your kid. And the great thing in our situation, it's not just their tutor. There are a number of adults that we're able to get feedback on with where our kid is and how they're doing.
And the great thing with school is there are those built-in types of things when it comes to gauges and, portals, report cards, all those things to keep. And I would say too, with teachers, to have curiosity and gratitude when you talk to them and thank them. Again, teachers spend so much time, with our kids. Be their friends, champion them. And I say leverage those relationships to say, hey, what are you seeing, with my kids? Because the guard's down a little bit. I think our kids, depending on personalities, they can spin who they want us to see. That was my oldest son. He was spinning, I can give them what I think they're wanting to see. So having people outside of that is super huge. Number 3 is the sports and activities gauge. And keeping a gauge on that. one of the things that we did, and I'm not saying everybody should do this, but it was certainly helpful with us. With 4 kids, we made the decision that our kids could only be involved in one activity at a time, which with 4 was plenty. And they didn't complain about it. One of them did, but the rest of them didn't. But it was, for us, it was the healthiest thing for our family to keep our sanity, but just keeping the gauge of not having too much extracurricular so that they could have that space to just be kids, because we can schedule them like crazy, right? And so I think it's that important that gauged with that. And also I think with that, it kind of blends with the friends, you know, activities, friends can change, right? Did you see that in youth ministry, like watching pockets of kids? Like,
Yeah. Kids, at least when you and I were in school, it was like you had the popular kids, and then there was a kind of a tiered down kind of a system. And now they're in clusters. It's just clusters of kids over here, clusters of kids over here. And yeah, when they get into different activities, they can recluster and change.
Talk more about the clusters.
So you've got a group of maybe 5, 4 to 10, and they are their people. That's kind of like their tribe there, and they don't care about anybody else. So like, it's their group. And a lot of times when at least we would be doing youth ministry, we would want everybody in the school to come, but people would be like, oh, well, that's that cluster of kids over there. That's their thing.
Okay.
So, getting all the kids together, it's just, it's much more fragmented now, where it's, you got these almost like these little campfires all over the place. And so, but yeah, they can easily switch up when they start doing an activity over here, then they're in a cluster maybe over here for a little while, but it's, and the nature of their relationships is, and this is something that Dr. Chap Clark, we've talked about him before. He's expert in adolescence from the Fuller Seminary. He said, if you can imagine where most friendships are on a deep level, imagine a huddle where you're all together. Clusters of friendships among teenagers these days, it's like they're clustered together, but they're outward facing. So like we're all linked together, and we're kind of protecting ourselves with the people that we're with, but we're not going super deep with one another. So like, we're kind of, the relationships serve a purpose, and we're there to protect each other and to kind of be with each other, but there's a level that they don't get past.
Wow. So that makes me just think
in most cases.
In most cases.
In a lot of cases, yeah.
Well, you go with each cluster, you have to, buy into the characteristics of the cluster to get to be a part of the cluster. Like you have to believe in the same things, do the same things. And I just watch how kids can, there's a culture there's culture in theater. I watched that. There was a incredible culture for my son with cross country. And I've heard that kind of across the board. And I don't know if it's because it's competitive, but you're kind of competing against yourself. It was so much encouragement. It was such a great group of kids. It's a parent's dream as far as participation. You show up. You don't even have to take them there. You show up, you clap at the first, you run in the middle, you clap in the middle, and you clap at the end. Like, I am a champion dad. It's great. And they ride back on the bus. It was beautiful. But I watched the culture of encouragement that they had, the culture of, hey, you just doing your best. So this one is huge. We just have to be careful with where they are and watching what goes on in that particular group. And sometimes that means saying no, which isn't always easy. Another gauge with our kids is the feelings gauge. And a lot of dads, I want you to hear, oh, this is so touchy-feely, but again, I'm working on a book about emotions, and it's so huge that we know what they're feeling, and we ask the questions of what's going on with them emotionally, and being very hesitant to get into a lecture to fix, which is the most difficult thing in the world for me. But when we're in the car with them and we're asking them, what's up? Jenny Allen wrote a quote in her book, Untangling Your Emotions, and it's, feelings are not meant to be fixed. They're meant to be felt. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
That's really good.
What do you think about that? From a dad perspective, now I want you to do this, Lynn. I'm going to make this tougher on you, but it's a dad who's listening, who's got a 12-year-old boy who's all boy playing hockey. How is that important to that kid?
There's a lot of things that are, my son played hockey and, he'd come off the ice upset, and this is supposed to be a happy thing. And we're spending a lot of money on it. I think a lot of dads, if you're anything like me, it's like when they're unhappy emotions, my tendency would be, and this is the wrong tendency, it's like squelch it out. Squelch it out. If there's something wrong, let's just squelch it out. Then the discomfort is gone. The bad feelings are gone. Let's just get back to being happy because I've invested time and money. Or even the kid is coming and I don't know how to deal with these emotions. I don't know how to handle them. Right. They make me uncomfortable, so I want them to go away. But it means the world if you can just sit there and listen and sit without a solution. It makes a kid feel not alone. It makes them feel like someone is with me in this. Like there's a big void I'm in. For the kid who's playing hockey, it didn't go his way. The coach is ignoring him. There's a kid on the ice that's giving him a hard time. Things are going wrong. To have a dad who's like, tell me what's going on. Tell me about what's happening on the bench. How you feeling? Okay. What do you want to do about that? And I'm sorry to hear that. That's hard. Or validating it. All of those things, I think, just make him feel not alone. They make him feel seen. And like that I've got somebody. I've got a champion next to me.
That's great. I've got a champion next to me. I love that. As I'm working on the book, one of the things it hit me so hard is, a lot of guys were like, I'm not emotional. I don't have a lot of emotion. I'm either angry or not. Those are my two emotions. But when you watch sports, and let's just say the fans, for instance, you watch, that is the one place that a man is allowed to have every emotion known to man. You can be excited. You can be mad, you can be sad, you can be frustrated, and then just go to the players and go to coaches. We love sports around here. We love college football, and you watch guys and they're affectionate with each other, and they're, coaches are talking and getting teared up. And so all these emotions are lifting up in sports, and it gives us a chance as dads to say, hey, bud, I could tell you were so frustrated out there. What's up? And just ask them and go, yeah, I love saying things like, God, that sounds hard. Full stop. I don't know if I'd want to be in that. That's tough. You're doing good. But asking that, or say, hey, I'm noticing that you seem a little bit more tentative lately. Is that because you got hit last week? Like what's up? But it gives us an opportunity to talk about emotions with our sons and with our daughters in a way that feels relatable to them. And maybe that's why guys are so fascinated with sports, or we do love them to go, this is where we're allowed to have
where
emotion.
We can let it all out. I mean, let all that pent up stuff. Yeah. I think this is a really important place where that dad's reaction, you can go one way or the other in terms of relationship. If you are open and willing to sit with them in the discomfort and in the pain, then you are now a safe person that they can come share their emotions with. And if you are that, then it makes it way more likely that when they go through trouble and they go through hard times, that they're going to come to you. And that's exactly what we all want. If you squelch it, if you try to quickly get over it, if you do some kind of suck it up and deal, or boys don't do this. Boys don't have these emotions.
Right.
Or, stop crying about it. Then you're basically going to say, you're communicating, I'm not a safe person to come to. And therefore, when they go through hard things, you're probably going to be one of the second tier or third tier people that they come to.
And I would say, after doing 50 episodes of this podcast, I think a theme that keeps coming back of the most important thing for a dad is to be safe. Are you a safe place? And when they're emotional, hey, safe and calm, and I'm not trying to fix you, and empathetic. That was something I just didn't know to do. I wanted my kids to feel better. Well, I think feeling better is allowing yourself to feel.
Yeah.
And in other words, you're making me uncomfortable, or I don't want you to hurt, or all the things that we were taught to teach boys. And so I love this idea of just being strong and safe.
Well, and some people are going to watch this and go, I'm so sick and tired of this generation talking about being safe. I mean, give me a break. Well, what they mean by that is that when they're around you, that they feel guarded, and you don't want them to feel guarded around you.
Your safety.
You're a place where they can be vulnerable. They can be themselves. They can show you who they really are.
So good. It's great. So good. It's so powerful. And I think it's just putting different language on it. Right?
Yeah, completely. 100%.
You're safe and strong.
Yeah.
I want to be safe and strong. I love that. And the final gauge, number 5, is the dad gauge. How are you doing, man? Are you taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically? It's like we've got to keep that gauge on ourselves, because we can't love them well if we're exhausted. We can't love them well if we're not taking care of ourselves. We can't love them well, if for our faith-based dads, if you're not spending time with the Lord, and so asking yourself, one of the gauges that we've consistently, as their dad, can I be safe and strong when I'm feeling weak and out of control? And I don't think that we can. So for you, BJ, the dad gauge, what do you do to ensure that even in the midst of all that you have to do, because you have a thick job with a lot going on, 2 busy teenagers. What do you do to keep that dad gauge in check?
So there's a couple things that I've kind of realized a couple of years back. I realized, gosh, I'm not reading much. I'm filling my mind with just a lot of whatever. There's no intentionality with it. And I'm not really doing much. I'm not doing enough physically. I don't have kind of a plan. So making sure I'm in shape physically, and making sure that my mind is in shape. Those are kind of 2 places that I started a couple of years back. So I kind of made a whole plan of what am I feeding my mind with? Because when I'm thinking the right way, when I'm thinking sharp, that comes out in my behavior. And when I'm in a bad place, when I'm filling my mind with stuff that's not productive, that's not constructive, that's not going to help me be stronger, sharper. So that's kind of my first sign is, okay, I kind of gauge, okay, what am I filling my mind with? And so I just kind of made a goal a couple of years back that I would listen to 3 podcasts a week that would sharpen my mind. I would listen to 1 audiobook a month. I listen to books now. I can't read them because I'm reading so much for my job. When I end up reading a book, I end up falling asleep because I've read so much. So I listen to books now, 1 book a month at least, a couple of podcasts where I'm kind of sharpening my mind, and then I have a whole kind of regiment of checking boxes off. Have I run? Have I done push-ups?
I know. I saw that you sent me. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. It's very intimidating.
And I've done really poor the last couple of weeks. So, but there's a part of it that, okay, I'm traveling. It's, so all of that stuff kind of keeps me in a better kind of spot. And I am a person of faith. So there is like a, reading scripture. And I start every morning with 5 minutes of silence and just kind of let that sit. And so kind of let God talk.
I love that. I saw a picture of myself not long ago, and I'm sitting there and kids are little, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm probably at least 15 pounds heavier and looking really puffy, man. Just my face. I just look, and I've got them and they're up under me. So I was with them, and I thought I was exhausted and out of shape. And that was the time I needed to be in the most shape. But I just remember that was a season I thought, I wish those little guys would had a different version of me a little bit. Like I'm going, hey, it's not easy when they're little to take care of yourself, but it is so important. You can incorporate them into the activities, right? But that's a gauge that we have to constantly stop and go, whoa. Because it's so easy to go, I'm too busy. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets too busy. I mean, we can all say that, but just to keep that gauge on yourself as well. So, with that, when thinking about the gauges with our kids, it's so important. And dads, we know you got a lot of stuff going on. We know you're probably either exercising right now, so good for you, or you're coming back home from work, whatever it is you're doing. This isn't to add guilt. This is just a thing to say, hey, I just need to check in. I need to check in with my kids. I need to check in with teachers. I need to check in with coaches. And I need to check in with myself, like how I'm doing. And it's consistency. It's not perfection. It's a process. So like you said, hey, it's been a couple of weeks. Well, at least it's been a couple of weeks and we can get back on the plan. You got to have a plan to get back on, right? So dads, here's your pro move of the week. We want you to go to the show notes and we want you to choose one of those 5 gauges to check in. Check in with your kids, check in with someone who loves you, like your spouse, check in with a coach, check in with activities, or, check in with yourself. Just choose one, because we know you're busy. Again, we don't overwhelm you, but to check in one gauge that's going to help you to be a better dad. We know you're doing a great job. This may just help you make it be just a little bit better, right, BJ? Just a little bit better. That's what we're on to.
Take things from here to here.
Just baby steps, right?
Slight improvement.
Hey, we want to thank you so much. BJ, thank you for joining me. And we want to thank all of you for joining us. Hey, if you could do us a favor, we'd really appreciate it. If you could go and just rate and review this podcast, it helps other people to find it. We'd really appreciate that. If you're also looking for more ways to stay on top of your dad game, you can go to our show notes and you can find our LinkedIn profiles. And of course, you can always go to allprodad.com. But most of all, we want to say thank you for watching, for listening. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did. Thanks for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the All Pro Dad Play of the Day, by going to allprodad.com/subscribe and get daily powerful and practical fatherhood tips in your inbox. The All Pro Dad podcast is hosted by me, Ted Lowe, produced by Bobby Lewis.